When Anna Devane finally returned to Port Charles, stepping back into the formidable role of police chief and ousting Dante Falconeri, we all breathed a collective sigh of relief. We wanted to believe that the nightmare was over, that her legal troubles were resolved, and that her time at the mental health clinic in France had truly healed her. But beneath that authoritative, reinstated exterior, she is fighting a terrifying losing battle against her own mind. The hallucinations of Peter August are not just echoes of trauma. They are insidious, dangerous whispers pushing her toward a destructive path of revenge. At first, it didn't seem important. It is entirely natural for a woman who has endured such intense psychological manipulation by Ross Cullum and the lingering ghosts of her past to experience some form of post-traumatic stress. We wrote it off as a tragic symptom of her ordeal. Something about that moment stayed with me, though. I keep coming back to the specific timing of these hallucinations. Why Peter? Why now? Why? When the cold fusion project is reaching its absolute boiling point, when the WSB is swarming Spoon Island, does Peter's voice suddenly echo so loudly and clearly in Anna's mind? It is almost as if the proximity of Peter's grand design is bleeding into her subconscious. We are led to believe that Peter August is gone, reduced to a painful memory that only exists to torment the people he left behind. But in Port Charles, memories have a terrifying habit of manifesting into flesh and bone. Then, we have to look at the sudden, highly convenient death of Cassius Faison, the man who stole his twin brother's life, who wore Nathan West's face and broke the hearts of Lulu Spencer and young James West, is declared dead. The WSB sweeps in, Z makes a secret, highly classified deal with Jocelyn Jacks, and suddenly, all the horrific sins of Ross Cullum are washed away, pinned neatly on the chest of a dead imposter. Cassius becomes the perfect silent scapegoat. The town mourns the idea of Nathan, while Liesel Obrecht is left utterly devastated by the loss of her son. The narrative is tied up with a neat little bow, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. We know the truth. We know that Cassius Faison isn't dead. We know that Z secretly recruited him, keeping his survival hidden from everyone in Port Charles. The more I think about it, the more the secret recruitment feels like the opening act of a much darker, far more sinister play. Z isn't just saving an asset out of the goodness of his heart. He is securing a vital component for a machine that is already in motion. Let us walk down this corridor a little further and look at Ross Cullum. Ross was presented to us as the mastermind, the rogue WSB agent manipulating Caesar Faison, terrorizing Anna, and driving the dangerous cold fusion project forward at all costs. But look closely at his final days. He was desperate, pressured, acting like a man who had a strict deadline imposed by someone far more terrifying than any global intelligence agency. When Jocelyn Jacks took him down in that fiery confrontation on Spoon Island, it felt like a massive victory. The villain was dead, the threat was neutralized. But maybe there's another layer here. What if Ross Cullum was never the architect of this nightmare? What if he was just a loyal, albeit brutal, soldier? A minion carrying out the will of a master who operates entirely in the shadows, pulling the strings without ever stepping into the light. This brings us to the shadow beneath the story, the unseen connection that binds all these disparate, chaotic events together. I am talking about Peter August. We have all assumed he met his definitive end, but what if he has been living in the dark all along, watching, waiting, and orchestrating a masterpiece of global chaos? If you ask me, Peter is exactly the kind of monster who would let the world believe he is dead while he moves his chess pieces across the board. In this scenario, Ross Cullum wasn't just a rogue double agent working with Jen Sidwell. He was Peter's right hand, his most important operative. And Cullum's death on Spoon Island wasn't just a setback. It was a profound, agonizing loss for Peter. He isn't mourning the man. He is mourning the disruption of a carefully laid plan, the sudden halt of the cold fusion project that Cullum was supposed to deliver. The cold fusion project isn't just about revolutionary energy or billions of dollars. In the wrong hands, it is about absolute, unchecked power. Peter August craves power, but more than that, he craves absolute control over the people who have wronged him. With Cullum gone, Peter needs a new way to bring the cold fusion project to the finish line. He needs someone with the intellect to complete the prototype, someone who can be controlled absolutely, without question or hesitation. It doesn't seem accidental that Cassius Faison was kept alive by Z. Cassius, the man who already knows how to wear another man's life, is now a blank slate in the hands of the WSB. He is a ghost, stripped of his identity, isolated from his mother Liesel, and entirely at the mercy of his captors. Maybe we are looking at something far more sinister than a simple intelligence recruitment. Peter August is a man devoid of moral boundaries, a man who views human beings as mere tools to be used and discarded. It's possible that Peter looks at his half-brother Cassius and doesn't see a sibling in need of saving, but a vessel waiting to be filled. We know the history of mad science in this town. We know the dark, twisted legacy of Caesar Faison and the horrifying lengths to which that family will go to achieve their goal. What if Peter's grand design involves taking the remnants of his father's twisted genius and implanting them into a new, unwilling host? I keep wondering whether Peter is planning to turn Cassius into a living receptacle for half of Caesar Faison's brain. It sounds horrific, like something pulled straight out of a gothic nightmare, but this is the legacy of Faison. Cassius is already a man who knows how to hollow himself out to become someone else. He wore Nathan West's face, his uniform, his entire identity. Stripping him of his own mind and replacing it with the genius of Caesar Faison would be the ultimate cruel irony. With half of Faison's brain functioning inside him, Cassius would possess the exact, unparalleled intellectual capacity needed to easily complete the complex cold fusion formula that Cullum left unfinished. But Peter cannot execute a medical and psychological atrocity of this magnitude alone. He needs infinite resources. He needs a secure, off-the-grid facility, state-of-the-art medical equipment, and the impenetrable cover of darkness. That is exactly where Z comes in. Z is the head of the WSB, a man who has shown time and time again that he is willing to bend any rule, break any international law, and make deals with anyone to get what he wants. He flirts with Carly Spencer, makes secret pacts with Jocelyn Jacks, and operates with a chilling level of autonomy. Why would a man in his position align himself with a monster like Peter August? The answer, as always, is power. Peter is willing to share the completed cold fusion formula with the WSB, offering Z a weapon of unimaginable global influence. This is where the tension really starts to build, wrapping around the narrative like a vice. We are not just looking at a rogue villain hiding in the shadows anymore. We are looking at an unholy, terrifying alliance between a living nightmare and the highest echelons of global intelligence. Z is allegedly using the vast, unchecked resources of the WSB to help Peter meticulously control Cassius's mind. They are building a puppet, a brilliant, unstoppable puppet powered by the resurrected intellect of Caesar Faison, protected by the golden badge of the WSB, and directed entirely by the malice of Peter August. And what is the true endgame here? What if we're missing something crucial regarding Z's ultimate ambitions for this technology? Z doesn't just want a new clean energy source to power cities. He wants leverage. He wants dominance. If the cold fusion project succeeds under his watch, it provides a direct means to manipulate the PCPD and other law enforcement agencies across the globe. Imagine a world where the WSB holds the absolute keys to an energy revolution, using it to quietly blackmail police departments, control local governments, and reshape the justice system to their whim. They could dictate who gets arrested, who goes free, and who simply disappears into the night. Look at the PCPD right now. Anna Devane has just returned as police chief, and the department is in a state of vulnerable flux. They are dealing with missing evidence, internal loyalty tests between Dante and Chase, and the lingering chaotic trauma of Ross Cullum's rampage. They are exposed. Z knows this. Peter knows this better than anyone. By controlling the cold fusion project, they can hold the entire city of Port Charles hostage without ever firing a single bullet. They can manipulate Anna from afar, forcing her into impossible corners, perhaps even using her ongoing hallucinations of Peter to break her down from the inside out, making her question her own sanity while they dismantle her city. I can't shake the feeling that we are only seeing the very edge of the storm. The daily dramas of Port Charles, the chaos with Jen Sidwell, the framing of Willow Kane, the romantic entanglements of Carly and Valentine, the teen angst of Danny and Scout, all of it is just noise. It is a carefully orchestrated distraction, keeping everyone's eyes firmly on the ground, while the real, existential threat gathers quietly in the shadows above them. Cassius Faison is out there, presumed dead and mourned by the people who loved him, while in reality, he is being hollowed out, prepared for a fate that is arguably worse than death itself. Something feels unfinished. The way Z smiled when he secretly recruited Cassius. The way Peter's voice continues to echo relentlessly in Anna's mind, refusing to fade into the background. The way the cold fusion prototype sits just out of reach, waiting for the final, gruesome piece of the puzzle to snap into place. This isn't a story that ended on Spoon Island when Ross Cullum took his last fiery breath. That was merely the closing of a violent chapter. The real horror is just beginning, quietly, methodically, in a sterile WSB facility where a man's mind is about to be erased to make room for a monster. We are walking down a dark hallway, and the lights are flickering. Every clue we find just leads to a deeper, darker question, and the answers are waiting in the shadows.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.